Well, I figured I'd talk about it while it was still fresh on my mind. The Beekeeper movie with Jason Statham. I was excited in a way, right? Because I actually had gotten a little bit of the superhero fatigue, which is kind of, it's a thing, whether people like to admit it or not. Especially with it being just Marvel and DC, right? And it was almost a byproduct of comic book fatigue, when those were the big ones, so to speak. So if we're gonna get out of the superhero fatigue, you're gonna have to support other entertainment for a little while, such as the Beekeeper, right? It was definitely a throwback to, it had a similar vibe to 80s, 90s, late 80s, mid 90s action movies, right? Maybe not quite on par with things like Die Hard, Terminator 2, obviously being like the paradigm of that genre. You know what I mean? You're not really ever gonna get like anything over that, right? And all the other Terminator movies that followed up, they never reached that bar, right? T2 set it so high, right? So anyway, my point is, The Beekeeper was actually a decent action flick with, a decent enough plot holding things together, and it ended. They could easily follow it up with a sequel if they wanted. If not, no problem. And that's how a lot of action movies were through that time period, right? It would be an action movie. It would end with a possibility of a follow-up, right? If they really felt like they needed one, or if there was enough story left, or whatever. I mean, there's always enough story left. You can always make something up, right? So, the Beekeeper, and it was funny was, I was watching, I was in there, even for the previews and the credits, and the opening credits are very interesting, I thought, because they showed a lot of like mythological imagery of bees and beekeepers, right? They showed like Egyptian beekeepers, which, man, I haven't done any kind of research into that to know if that's actually a thing. Did the ancient Egyptians actually do beekeeping? Sure, they could have. So anyway, all through the credits they're showing the mythological imagery of beekeepers. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm sitting here, I'm thinking like, it's kind of a strange opening for an action movie to show that, right? So, in the very far back of my head, I'm sitting there thinking like, okay, so are they going to make some kind of a mythological connection, or is it going to be like an ancient order of beekeepers that, they have their own kind of secrets, and they pass them down from time to time, and there's like a mythological sense, or mythological status to them, you know what I mean, where it's like, in the movie they're portrayed as like a very secret government organization that's even above the government itself, right? Yeah, I don't know how that works exactly. It's like, I guess, government versus government. Who knows? But it's still fresh on my mind. It was probably been about, it was a little over a week and a half ago, so about 10 days ago we went and saw it. And it was funny, it was me, my son, and my dad. Right? So it was like 3 generations of men, so to speak. Right? And we enjoyed it. You know? It wasn't nothing fancy, you know. I actually kind of think it was better than, you know, some of the John Wick stuff, right? Obviously not the original John Wick. John Wick was like, you know, it was kind of like a push into that, you know, push into that action genre as well. You know, a little bit darker, a little more focused in on, you know, using realism. In the first one. Whereas like the sequels kind of do add a bit of a fantasy element to it, which is fine. I mean, it's to me, if you're gonna make realistic movies that are extremely realistic, like to the point where there's no exaggeration at all, go for it. You know, do that, but don't expect it to be a blockbuster. Right? Don't expect it to make millions and millions of dollars. You know, put your heart into it, go for it. But, you know, it's not going to probably won't appeal to the masses. Because I don't know about the rest of you, but I go to the movies to escape reality. Be entertained. I don't want to be force-fed more reality in the form of entertainment in order to, you know, which is why I hate all the reality shows. I say I hate, it's kind of strong. I dislike 99%. I was on a kick there with Fear Factor. You know, that was the cool show for a while. And eventually that died off. Eventually you ran out of things to be afraid of, right? That they could reproduce. I'm pretty sure you can't reproduce cosmic horror. I don't know if that's how exactly how it's pronounced. Anyway, that's my thoughts on Beekeeper. Like I said, it's nothing awesome, right? It's kind of a run-of-the-mill action movie that really it felt like it was kind of needed at this time, right? And I know how the Hollywood machine works. They usually try to put their duds and their, you know, the ones that they don't think are going to make, you know, hardly any money around January, February, especially mid-January, you know, when everybody's still recovering from Christmas. You know what I mean? Anyway, talk to you later.